Welcome to Writing and Sharing Connections. I'm Joe Caldwell, your host through this exciting, fresh classroom literacy adventure. Here we'll discover a unified strategy to guide students through the processes of pre-reading, thinking about reading, post-reading reflection, sharing ideas publicly, and most importantly, metacognition, or thinking about thinking. The basic structure of Writing and Sharing Connections is as follows: read, share, connect, share, reflect, share. Are you seeing a pattern? Yes, sharing. The art of communicating our personal thoughts, ideas, and opinions to others in our community and feeling comfortable doing so. We'll come back to that later. The first step, of course, is to select books. The ideal choices for Writing and Sharing Connections have interesting, true stories, written with a child's wonder in mind. Captivating illustrations, not terribly long, but not too short either. In short, these books are the creme de la creme. Hunting them down can be a task, but once you've found them, they are treasures. The second important piece of the Writing and Sharing Connections puzzle is the timeline. In it, people and events from stories as well as from social studies class are marked. This aids in training the mind to make connections by showing interrelated topics in a concrete historical context. In Writing and Sharing Connections sessions, students gather around to be read to. Instead of plowing right in clumsily, however, the teacher walks them casually through effective pre-reading strategies. Information about the author, context of the story, these kinds of roundabout inquiries into the book itself aid readers' comprehension. And the discussion format provides a modeling opportunity so as to avoid any "this is how you must read" direction. Once into the story, the teacher continues to model good reading strategies, stopping frequently to pose questions about the story, predict the outcome of events, or even just point out impressive artwork. It is important during this portion of Writing and Sharing Connections to keep the audience, the children, interested. They may need convincing that this story matters, or is at all relevant to them. This is also a chance for the teacher to model making personal connections, which comes into play later on when the students will be asked to do so on their own. So it's nice to have an example to work with. When the story is over and any follow-up discussion completed, students are invited to take a post-it note back to their desks and write down something they connect to the story, using a "this reminds me of blank because blank" template. The connections can be, and inevitably are, very diverse. It is important to emphasize that not only are there no wrong answers, but in fact every connection is a good one because it is unique to the individual. The teacher needs to moderate this in a way that makes everyone comfortable sharing, and be flexible. If someone doesn't want to read theirs out loud, read it for them or let them bring a friend along. The important thing is to simply build confidence. This sharing also illustrates to students how different we all are, and hopefully teaches them to value that difference. Seeing how the same story can speak to so many people on so many levels can be quite eye-opening. That's why it is important to establish rules for speaking and listening. Everyone needs to be paying attention and showing respect for their peers so one, they don't miss anything, and two, they are subtly trained, whether consciously or not, in these vital skills for living and working in a community. When a student makes a particularly profound or interesting connection, the teacher can point it out to the group. It makes for great concrete examples for classmates and can springboard even more connections. As connections are shared, they are posted on a large display, labeled by name, and the student is given the power to categorize their connection. The categories can be anything but need to be general enough that others could potentially fit their connections into the same category. For instance, a connection to one's mother would be a family connection, and so would a connection to a brother or uncle. At the end of each cycle of stories, students review their past connections and chart them on a graph. The intent here is to be able to look back at the diversity or lack thereof in connections' subject matter. If every connection was to self, maybe that child needs some encouragement to broaden their thinking. This activity, being metacognitive in nature anyway, leads straight into perhaps the most cumbersome but also the most crucial piece of Writing and Sharing Connections, the metacognitive essay. Herein, each student writes down their thoughts about their connections to the stories. Were they superficial or meaningful? How so? Did they cover a range of categories or just one or two? Why might that be? Do I feel I tried my best? Was it easy or hard, and why? Did I enjoy the process? Why or why not? You'll notice now, as before, the emphasis on the why, or the because statement. For students to truly develop metacognitive ability, They need to experience asking themselves why they feel a certain way, or why they think a certain thing. This is a higher order skill many adults never master. But with the proper scaffold in place, our students can learn to do it and do it well. They will be effective and successful readers and communicators, and if we're just lucky enough, they might learn to like it.